Welcome back to the Baal Shalom's Matan Torah with commentary by Rabbi Abraham Mordechai Gottlieb, who as always I'll be referring to as the Rebbe Shlita. We're in the middle of revealing a handbreadth and concealing two. We're starting on page 44, towards the bottom. So far we've been talking about the difference of inner light and outer light, or surrounding light that is, or pnimin or makif, and how it relates to different souls, and particularly to the souls of the great Kabbalists that we're speaking about here, being Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Arizal, and the Baal Sulam. So let's continue. The Baal Sulam begins, or continues, the essence of his words is that the matter of clarification of issues within Kabbalah is not at all dependent on the greatness or smallness of the Kabbalist involved. Rather, it is a matter of the special illumination of the soul with respect to this specific task. And this illumination of the soul constitutes permission from heaven to reveal the higher wisdom. This illumination of the soul, of course, is referring to the souls that are rooted in the surrounding light, the or makif, which equate to an ease, an ability to enclose matters in coded form, so that those who merit to understand can understand, and those who should not, for whatever reason, are barred against absorbing such high wisdom. He continues, we thus learn that someone who has not been awarded this permission is forbidden to put forth clarifications of this wisdom. Being unable to enclose these delicate matters in suitable language, such that students will not stumble in it. For this reason, there was no organized book of Kabbalah that preceded the Zohar of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. All prior books of this wisdom are not to be considered explanations of wisdom, but rather general hints, and do not contain any logical order, as is clear to anyone familiar with the subject. This is the end of our explanation of the words of the Ari. Says the Rebbe Shlita, in general, secrets of the Torah are the teachings regarding divine revelation and regarding the preparation required in order to merit such revelation. As I've heard from my friend Abraham Lowenthal on a short Kabbalah video on YouTube, he says, Kabbalah in essence, I'm paraphrasing here, Kabbalah in essence is a 10,000 page instruction manual on how to transform our consciousness from receiving to giving. And this is just that, just put into more technical terms, perhaps. Clarifications of this wisdom must not be made by anyone without permission. How can someone know that he or she has merited this license or not? As a first step, you must feel that these matters are precious, and then you will naturally want to conceal this wisdom, just as people hide their material treasures. This is similar to a person who has a very precious treasure in his or her house and hides it so no one will see it. Because if care is not taken, disreputable people would try to steal the treasure and bring it into their unclean domain. In another place, the Baal Shalom speaks about how the wisdom of Kabbalah being also absorbed and used and learned by the nations of the world has caused the nation of Israel incomprehensible damage. And in a different light, under the umbrella of Eino Mavado, there's nothing but him. At the same time, it was by the Creator's hand that were all necessary steps in order to come to the final revelation that we're, to a degree, seeing right here, right now. The fact that we're learning such things, with the opportunity to slowly build tools in order to actually go into the learning of the Talmud Sefirot and the Zohar and the like. Amazing. But that was one example of what he's referring to here, as far as disreputable people, meaning those who are not within the domain of the Masorah, the tradition, and therefore unable to properly absorb the wisdom with proper intention, being the refinement of the sages that have permission to receive it and therefore give it over. for other nations to receive it and contort it and corrupt it with alien understandings based on their interpretations, we can make our own assumptions from there. He continues, therefore, before you reveal the existence of the treasure, you must check out very carefully who is there with you. And only if you find that they're completely honest can you reveal that you have this treasure. Furthermore, you should be capable of providing a hint. That is, you should be able to reveal this wisdom in a manner such that only those who have awe of heaven will understand and others will not understand. How can it be that people without superior character are able to perceive these matters? And what bad will come from their perceiving them? As Baal HaSulam explains in the introduction to Panim Merot, we are dealing with people who, on one hand, are high souls who indeed long for the perception of divine truths, and on the other, are not yet completely clean of the defilement of the desire to receive. Therefore, they can do harm. In the best case, they may seek some gain from this wisdom in order to satisfy material lusts, and in a worse case, they may do spiritual harm by injecting corruption into the arrangement of spiritual worlds. Pretty straightforward. Baal HaSulam continues, to this should be added, according to what I have received from Kabbalists and books on Kabbalah, and from the time of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his students, who were responsible for the Zohar until the time of the Ari. None of the authors of Kabbalah books during this period understood the Zohar and the Tikkunim as well as the Arizal. All the works that preceded him, including those of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, are only hints to this wisdom. It is fitting to say the same about the Arizal, as he himself said about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That is, that before the Ari, permission was not given from heaven to reveal the explanations of the Kabbalah, and the Ari was given this permission. There is no distinction to be made here between greatness and limited understanding, as it is perfectly possible that the level of those who preceded the Ari was inestimably greater than his level. Nonetheless, they were not given permission to reveal this wisdom. Therefore, they did not write explanations related to the essence of this wisdom, but contented themselves with short and disconnected hints. For this reason, from the moment that the books of the Ari were revealed to the world, everyone involved with learning Kabbalah ceased to study the works of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero and of all the others who preceded the Ari, as is well known to those involved with Kabbalah. And they focused all their energy exclusively on the writings of the Ari. Thus, the principal works that are considered proper explanations of the Kabbalah are only the Zohar and the Tikkunim, and after them, the works of the Ari. Says the Rebbe Shlita. Also regarding Baal HaSulam himself, it is fitting to say the same things that he said regarding Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and the Arizal. Namely, that without a doubt, he received a special soul from the aspect of surrounding light, which constitutes the giving of permission from heaven. Therefore, he is the third in the order of generations that has written a true exposition of this wisdom, and not just by way of hints. Apparently, this is according to the needs of the generation. To that point, the Baal HaSulam has said in personal letters to both his father and brother, both of their memories should be a blessing. These notes were found, or at least I read them, by means of the English translation of the Rebbe Shita's biography on the Baal HaSulam, named HaSulam, the English translation being Master of the Ladder, by Yedida Cohen. Amazing book. Highly, highly recommend. One of my favorites. Seriously. And in this book has teachings, stories, diary entries, a song or two, some poetry, all from the Baal Sulam. Has some essays in the back as well from the Rebbe Zitzal, Rebbe Baruch Shalom Ashlag. In these personal letters to his father and his brother, he exclaimed that not by his own accord or his own merit, but due to the merit and needs of the generation, that the Creator bestowed upon him the soul of the Arizal. He received an ibur, as opposed to a gilgul, which is the standard term for a reincarnation. A ibur is to be impregnated by a soul, so to speak, meaning that in the midst of one's inner work, as they develop themselves, and they merit to higher levels of their soul, as there are 5 levels of the soul: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechidah. The individual souls is up to 4, because yechidah, as hinted to by the name, yichud, oneness. Yechidah is ultimate unity. So the other 4 levels are, relatively speaking, have their own individuality still. So the Arizal says, supposedly, I haven't seen it myself, in Shar HaGalgulim, the gates of reincarnation, that a person can have, technically speaking, up to 4 souls. They could have a different nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya. Anyway, that's a digression. Point being, the Baal Shem received an ibur of the Arizal. He said, by the needs of the generation and by the Creator's hand himself. And even if that wasn't true for whatever reason, though we believe it to be so, the proof is in the pudding. He wrote an entire collective commentary and ordered everything from the Arizal with great efficiency, and wrote his commentary and translation on the Zohar. He's writing 18 hours a day, sometimes more. Inhuman. I mean, arthritis, constant pain, but living in such an altered state of consciousness above nature. You gotta do what you gotta do, despite the pain. Point being is that there's a tangible tradition of him being the continuation of the line of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai at the Arizal, because he actually received the soul of the Arizal. Aside from that, practically, we can say that as well, even if that wasn't the case. There was also a translation in Master of the Ladder of the Baal Shem's Nevuah. There's a prophetic vision, prophetic dream that he had, where he spoke to it in an interaction with the Creator in manifestation form of Kel Shakai, as the Creator has revealed himself in different names and different levels, different revelations to different tzaddikim, through Tanakh, as we see, the different prophets and the like. And it's worth looking over there. Looking it up, you can probably Google it, the Baal Shem's prophecy. Find an English translation as well. But in short, the Creator gave the Baal Shem specifically the mission to reveal the matters in order to illuminate the faces of the nations by means of disseminating and opening up the wisdom of Kabbalah for everyone. And we see today, relatively speaking, despite the great challenge, given that the iron fence between different societies and cultures still have against the wisdom of Kabbalah, even so, the revelation is clear. There's been literally millions upon millions of people over decades who have connected to it, obviously more so than ever before. But yes, again, I highly recommend looking into the prophecy. And if you're not an owner of that book, highly worth it. Master of the Ladder. You can find it on any bookstore. Amazon, for example. Another example of his greatness just to paint a picture of the continuation of the tradition from Rabbi Shimon Yochai to the Arizal to now the Baal Sulam, is that he claimed if he had all the time in the world, he would have written 1,000, if not more, books on the Zohar. He ended up writing 21, which is an amazing feat. It took him 10 years, writing 18 plus hours a day. But it seemed that he knew what he was dealing with. He knew he was in a goof, he was in a body, and he only had so much time in his life. So he had to laser focus. What can I do? What am I to bring? So that's what he did. But if he had it his way, it would have been 1,000 or more. It's incomprehensible. Absolutely incomprehensible. A year ahead of time, more than a year, if I'm not mistaken, there's a story where one of his closest students, his closest Hasidim, came to him asking about the purchasing of the Arba Minim, the 4 types that we buy for Sukkot, the Etrog, and the Hadassim, and the like. And the Baal Sulam told him, don't bother looking for the Arba Minim for me this year. Because normally by tradition, it was a great honor for the students to gather up a great sum of money to buy the most beautiful species for their Rebbe, because he was to do the mitzvah. And he could obviously do it at the greatest level because he was at the greatest level. So he says to him that don't bother. And he tells him when he's going to leave the world. If I'm not mistaken, 1.5 years ahead of time. I could be wrong. Maybe it was within the year. And perhaps that would make more sense. I don't remember exactly. I apologize. But it was a significant amount of time. And he said that he'll be leaving on Yom Kippur. And so that's what happened. Yom Kippur came. He laid on his deathbed in the Beit Midrash, which was connected to his home. They got to a section in the Haftarah of the Torah reading, a specific verse in the Haftarah. And for some reason, the Baal Kor, the person reading it, couldn't say it. He was stuck. He couldn't move on. And then he was called into the room of the Baal Sulam where he was laying, ready to leave the world. And then he was able to read it. And he read that one verse, and the Baal Sulam's soul left his body. In the prophecy, it said that he was given everything. Akin to the vision of Adam Harishon, he saw from the beginning of time till the end. If someone is at the level of Gemar Tikkun, meaning the perfect correction of their soul anyway, they're connected to an aspect of consciousness beyond space and time, because that level of spirituality is connected to the level of Keter, which is Ein Sof itself, infinity, endlessness, which is his desire to give goodness to creation. But in any case, all realities and their infinite possibilities, all of history, and every detail of it, from a leaf falling on the ground to wars and holocausts, are programmed, are written, so to speak, in the Ein Sof. And when someone reaches the highest level and corrects themselves fully, that's the consciousness they're connecting to. So the same goes for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and the Arizal. Hence the Arizal being able to fall asleep for a half second and then being asked by a student, what did the Rebbe learn when he was up in Shemayim? And he said, what I learned in that half second of sleep would take me literally 70 years to explain to you and illuminate to you the secrets of Bilam's donkey. Who can comprehend these types of individuals? But the point is that the Baal Shem was of that caliber. It's amazing to contemplate someone who has everything at their disposal, and is capable of spreading and giving everything, but also has to form a relative similarity of form, with the Creator, being the same way, according to the principle of more. When the calf wants to suckle, the mother wants to nurse. more than we want to receive the Creator's light and be enjoyed and have pleasure, the truth is the Creator wants to infinitely more provide us everything. He wants us to have or Ein Sof, infinite light, an eternal connection with Him. So in this aspect, the supreme tzaddikim, like the Baal Sulam, the Arizal, the Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai, are able to touch on that because they can have the abilities relative to what they know to give everything. And out of the infinite wisdom that they have at their disposal, there's a tiny thread that they can reveal. And because they have unconditional love for all of humanity, we can only meditate and contemplate how one must feel to love the whole world and have such greatness able to be revealed to them, but having to stay concealed until the time is ripe, of course. So, a little bit of cool details as far as the tradition and what we've heard and know about the Baal Sulam and his greatness, and to clarify the continuation of the tradition from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and the Arizal. I've often, when I bring up these ideas to friends of mine who are familiar very much with Torah's Breslov, so they challenge me in regards to the tradition of Breslov Hasidim, who say that the order of souls goes Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Arizal, the Baal Shem Tov, and Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. But there's no stira, there's no contradiction. The Baal Sulam received an ibur of the Arizal. It's not a gilgul. And even so, the Baal Sulam was involved in the same work. He commented and clarified the work of the Arizal. He commented and translated and clarified the work of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai via the Zohar. So practically, he's part of that line. In terms of the soul's line, Seder. Rabbi Nachman is a tzaddik gamor, an amazing, amazing soul. And we do agree that his teachings are to be adopted as far as the love and greatness and universality of humanity, how much we should judge the other favorably and look at others with love and care and the like. To each their own. We should respect and absorb what we can from other paths, because there's so many beautiful paths that all lead us to peace in Judaism. As I heard beautifully from Rabbi Breitowitz, Shlita, or Sameach, that Eskimos have 300 different words for the word white. Because living in the tundras, when everything's white snow, you need to be able to describe to someone how to traverse lands that are seemingly looking exactly the same. It's a giant expanse of white snow. You need to know where to go. So this is 300 words for white. You got to take a left at this white and a right at that white. Da, 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 da. So Rabbi Breitowitz says, how much more so? All the different colors of Judaism, different expressions, and beautiful shinings of the special diamonds that each and every one of us are, and also the different paths that are available to be taken. Of course, under the guidance of Torah, mitzvot, and halacha. There is no way that we can reach our destined potential in the greatest version of ourselves, both particularly, privately, and collectively, without all levels of the Torah. But that hopefully we know by now. If not, something to consider in terms of emunus chachamim, faith in the rabbis, faith in the sages. that the people that we're reading here, the individuals, the great masters, the Baal Sulam, the Arizal, Rishon Bar Yochai, did everything they could to serve the Creator, heart, soul, and body. So it's to be understood that if we really want oneness with the Creator, then He's the only thing that we should want. Everything else is secondary, if not even nullified, ideally, before the Creator. So there's no way to make a tikkun of one's soul, ultimately, without also building up the practical aspects of the Torah, as we've described time and time again. Always get to clarify. I heard a beautiful story, a metaphor for this, in regards to following halacha in Jewish law. It's a 20-year anniversary, husband and wife. The husband brings the wife to where they went on their first date. The silverware is the same, the cups are the same, the menu even is taken from the database 20 years back, the same, the wine is the same, everything, all the little details. She appreciates it so much. She says, wow, honey, so nice. So too in our relationship with the Creator, He gave us a means to be conscientious of Him, in desire to give Him nachat ruach, to please Him, the King of all kings. How much money and sacrifice would we give to be able to serve a flesh and blood king, or our favorite celebrity or athlete? How much more so the Creator? So the halacha of being the details and the fine-tuning of being aware and going about our life with intending to do the right thing and do what's supposed to be done in order to correct ourselves by means of the sages who brought us such wisdom and ways of going, all based on the Torah itself, that is from the Creator. Amazing. Till next time, all the best. And Eliezer Chasson, shalom, my friend. Hope all is well. Thanks for tuning in.